Hello everyone and welcome to today's session. My name is Tero Roinenen and I would like to thank you all for joining today. Few words about myself. So I joined Ubisecure in 2017 to lead the engineering team, and I'm really looking forward in contributing to the great product that we have. I would like also to introduce our today's presenter, Mr. John Jelma. John is our VP of Product and the team's dedicated product owner. He also joined Ubisecure in 2017, and we are together eagerly looking to improve all aspects of our great product as a team. Our topic today is the upcoming identity server release, which we have labeled as 2017.1. Before we dive into the topic, I would like you to know that we are recording the session and it will be available online after this presentation. Also, please note that all mics are on mute, so please use the GoToWebinar toolbar to ask questions and give comments. We will answer them at the end of the session. All right, let's dive into the topic today. John, please feel free to take over.
Thank you very much, Tero. And likewise, like Tero said, welcome and good afternoon to all of you listening in with us. Very briefly, of course, there's an agenda slide, what we're looking to cover off in today's presentation. Status on the upcoming release, some stats. We'll show you the roadmap as it was planned, the key elements, and then we'll give you a little peek looking forward. This is a release webinar, so there's not a tremendous amount of detail that we're going to cover off here on the looking forward, but it is fair and appropriate to show you our partners and system integrators a look forward view. Okay, so that's going to be our agenda, and if I jump right into it, when I say nearly there, what does that mean? For any of you who are familiar with Jira as a ticket tracking system from Atlassian, we have inside Ubisecure tracked all of our releases for the past 2.5 years within Jira, and inside the 2018.1 release package, there are 3 main elements. There are 2 core components that you all know very well, SSO and customer ID or CID. And then there are open, unsorted, general questions like over cert AP, bugs, other patches, other elements that come into an individual release. Jira is a fairly straightforward system to use, and you'll see the green, yellow, and blue bar going across, showing that we have a few issues still in motion, still being worked on by the team. A couple of issues, including the release ticket itself, that needs to be tracked or needs to be put in progress. Within this graph, it shows you that there's a couple of warnings. So those are some very specific releases or where we've touched the core code, yet closed it off in our configuration system, closed it off in a manner that throws a warning, but there is no error, there is no known bug there. As a larger portion, looking at the black column of numbers, so the number of tickets, and those are individual tickets as we described. They can be full features, they can be individual bugs. But looking at the number of tickets, we're covering off 44 issues in this version for SSO, 30 for CID, and 76 general issues within IDS 2018.1. So roughly speaking, there's about 150 individual issues that we've dealt with inside this ticket, inside this release package, and only a few, so we've got 11, 14, 19 of the 150 are still in progress. Those are testing review, those kinds of elements in progress. They've all been started with the exception of the release package and 2 tickets inside SSO. So we are nearly there. The plan at the start of the year was to make this release in mid-September. So the fact is that we'll have met within, well, let's say a couple of days, 5-6 days, and the package will be coming out. We'll let yourselves know as our developers and system integrators. We'll let you know exactly when the package comes out, but it should be in the next week, week and a half, that kind of area. If I show you some statistics over the next slides, there's a cumulative flow diagram. Again, these next two slides are statistic charts out of Jira's system itself. This is the total amount of time period across this year from 7th of January to last Thursday when I pulled this slide, showing all of the tickets and their status. The large red box at the bottom are the closed tickets. Those are the issues that we've resolved, as have been assigned inside this individual release. You'll note that I said there were about 150 tickets in the release, yet there's about 260 tickets that we've worked on across this time period. That's because not all tickets make it into a release. Not all tickets are fundamentally part of the release package. Some tickets are duplicate elements or items that come from yourselves as our partners as a form of a customer request or a support ticket, and we work those issues as well. Some of them are internal development issues that we're doing in advance of future releases, like some of the work we're doing within our cloud platform. So it shows you that there's a tremendous amount of work that's going on. Again, about 2/3 of it is 2/3 of the work from the team is actually focused on making this essential release occur. If I take you to the next slide, showing you the control chart. Again, this is a chart or a form tool that's available out of Jira. The system package itself, it watches exactly what we're doing. We don't have to hit start and stop times on each one of the tickets. There's nothing exceptional. As long as we follow the Jira ticketing system, control chart is available. And that allows me as a product owner to actually see how are we doing on issues. The red line going across the middle is our average. So if we say, well, an average and the rolling average are still sitting at the start of this year, they were about 40 days, and we've reduced that to about 28 days. So three weeks, 6 days, 12 hours is the average, but that's about 28 days that a ticket will take once we have it fully refined as a team and can actually press it forward into the closed state. That doesn't mean you get to have it inside 28 days, but that does mean on any given issue, we can normally resolve a well-defined issue inside 28 days. The other element of note is the standard deviation. So the standard deviation, and that's the blue background. I hope it shows up as a light blue or a light gray as a background within the GoToWebinar. You'll see that at the beginning of the year, for the first 3 months, there were no issues that took less than 9, 10, 11 days, something in that order, to be able to resolve. And what we've ended up doing towards the second half of the year, the second half of the development cycle, is prioritize and remove some issues in a very quick time period. So the standard deviation is reducing. That is, it's showing that we can resolve issues more quickly when we have them properly identified. Now, as our teammates, as our virtual teammates, as system integrators and deployers of our software, you'll say, okay, John, what are these last 2 slides for? And the key focus that you should take away from these 2 slides is the answer. That is, we're watching actively what is actually going on with the team, what we're able to resolve, and why we aren't able to resolve some issues. And it's the combination of resolving the correct issues and removing roadblocks or removing those issues that are unresolvable to be able to responsibly come back to you and say, hey, we can't fix this one, or it's going to take longer. My overarching goal for the next release cycle is that we work just as many tickets, but we take a decreased amount of time to move the tickets, and that the one big number inside there. So our maximum time to resolve an issue, you'll see at the middle of the screen at the very top, 28 weeks, 6 days. we took extremely long amount of time to resolve some issues. And that's a matter of focus. That's not that the issue is being worked for 28 weeks. That's we worked an issue and set it down, and worked an issue and set it down. And that ends up reflecting poorly on ourselves. And we will do better to be able to answer your questions and remove bugs as they are noted in the software in a more timely manner over the next 6 months and over the coming years. So enough of the dull, dry statistics, and let's move to a little bit of the detail. A release roadmap, and hopefully all of you on the presentation or listening to the presentation will have seen this. Roadmaps do alter from time to time. The key or the core focus should be seen as a little bit of a snake, what we hope to finish in May, what we hope to finish and release as 2018-1 here in September. Those are covered off the first two boxes. As we look into 2019, that's again, those are the general areas that we're working towards. That's not 100% of the material, but those are the key or the high level areas that we're working on. So within this release, we worked and focused on scalability of SSO, so both high availability and high performance. This is our Redis element. We worked and corrected a great number of issues or display and use functions within the developer portal, and we're working aggressively on the initial reference environment. I have slides to go over those. Additionally, as feature release within SSO, we have Swedish Bank ID as an authentication method, but it's not within the SSO package. I'll come forward to that. And we've worked to correct a large number of self-service credential management issues within the password applications. Again, won't touch on the roadmap moving forward, but that way you see what we're planning, what we're considering and thinking about. If I step forward to the next slide, one of the key elements on delivering our service towards you as our service integrators, as folks who actually go out and install the software is, well, when you have that question, and you might have a question 3 or 4 times a day, how can you find the answer? And to be blunt and pointed, our developer portal is going to be your quickest resource at actually finding an answer to most questions. I've taken a screenshot of the developer portal. On the left-hand side, you can see a page tree that deals with our current release. That's Identity Server 8.2 that was released in early January this year. Details quite a number of pieces of information, upgrades, configuration settings, and elements like third-party licenses within each of the 2 core components. Again, customer ID and SSO are our 2 core components. The main screen that I'm displaying here will highlight key information for you. So we'll give you an information box, like a pointer to come see this webinar or future webinars, key pieces of information that we'd like to share with all of you. They'll include a couple of links to our Identity Server 8.2. It will be updated to 8.3 when we make release. To our Identity Cloud, there's specific pages within the developer portal, and also to our knowledge base. But that search for solution box right there in the middle is a key item. Please use it. Use the search for a solution box within the portal and simply put in a keyword and see what's returned for you. I'll have an example of that later on. This webinar will be recorded, and it will be actually put down just below these 3 pictures, or these 3 area icons. There's additional recordings. So you'll see our previous recording of releases, and you'll see additional materials as recording that may be interesting for you to go back and review, or to watch and share with your team members who are unable to attend with us today. If I move forward, I'll show you an example of a combined topic. So how do I describe SSO as HAHP? I said look up Redis. I simply typed the keyword Redis, and I took a screenshot of what is there. In that drop-down menu that you'll see from the search bar, you'll see that there's knowledge base articles. So that's how generally to set up Redis, which is not part of our service software. And you'll see links that actually come over into Identity Server 8.2, talking about SSO configuration with Redis, and at the very bottom, Linux scalability and high availability setup, right? So again, the idea of the portal is to be a first resource towards you. When or as you find information missing from there, and you may find that, please reach out to support, please reach out to your account team, let us know, and we'll get these pages populated. Your question likely deserves a page within this portal. If I move forward again, one of the additional pages that isn't present on the portal now, which will be coming, is our reference environment. Now, I am flagging this slide as initial, but that's because it's our first foray into creating a reference environment. On the left-hand side of the page, you have a descriptor of the engineering environment that we've designed within our own AWS, Amazon Web Services platform. On the right-hand side, you see an example taken out of the initial reference environment report saying what an average customer looks like. We're running a series of tests. There are currently 7 test cases in the initial reference environment that will be run against, again, sample organizations like appears in the right-hand side, and we will run it with the current configuration. That is, we're setting up our own software, running a platform, and testing against the whole service, a full QA end-to-end experiment of what's actually going on. If we can't get it to work, that gives us the clearest message, us as Ubisecure ourselves, the clearest message of where the faults or bugs actually lie within our software. When I say this is an initial reference environment, it has not existed previous to Tara and myself joining the organization, but it will continue to be operating long into the future. As we build and scale our software, we will continue to update the reference environment. We will update the test cases that are used within the reference environment. So when you see our initial reference environment report on the developer portal, please look out for that. When you see it and you don't see your use case there, let us know what your use case is so that we can get it in the next reference environment report. We don't know the frequency of these reports yet, but in all likelihood, it'll be once a quarter, not once every half year like our releases. So we're going to try and really pound this infrastructure and give both our internal operators as well as yourself, our partners, good comfort on how the equipment is running and how the software is actually operant, where it fails, and the fact that we continue to catch bugs and remove them before actually releasing software to you. If I continue onwards, I'll pause here for just a moment. I'm going to take a sip of coffee while all of you look at an example test case. This one is as an example test case for a web agent using OAuth 2 to get an authorization code. So to actually log somebody on with OAuth 2 as the protocol. Have a skim of that while I pause here, please. Thank you. This gives you a good explanation of what our test case is. This is one of the 7. I imagine that as time moves forward, we will be in the 50s, perhaps even 100 different test cases that we will run across the platform. So this is a first foray, but not a last foray. We're not going to put this baton down. It has highlighted a number of issues with installation difficulties, and we understand that. We're working a number of different areas simultaneously to actually improve how the platform is used and remove the bugs or the negative user experience that might be going on within the platform. I'll follow to the first big one, and I'll simply say, like the bullet point says there, a funny story. I went to the team as I started putting together this presentation, and I said, okay, guys, now help me out. Help me find an actual screenshot of our authentication adapter specifically for Swedish Bank ID. And the team and Tero looked at me and said, come on, John, you know it's a client-initiated back-channel authentication adapter. And I said, of course I know it's a SIVA back-channel authenticator. And they said, great, then there's no GUI impact. So nothing to show you. So the thing I can show you as our system developers is the fact that we have a bank ID on the end user side, and we have an example of the SSO UI. It's fully integrated within SSO. If you've changed the SSO UI or you're using your own SSO UI and are making your own API calls into SSO, you will be able to use the authentication adapter that's found within the 2018 1 software release package, and you will be able to enjoy and not have to change or update your UI simply to make Swedish Bank ID authentications happen. We are continuing as we move forward the authentication adapter, but very specifically, Swedish Bank ID exists and is fully tested within the platform. If I go on then to the next slide, it's a little bit of a roadmap. So again, looking forward to into 2019, we plan to have 2 releases, one about the beginning of April and one about the beginning of October, end of September, beginning of October in 2019. That will be our pattern for releases. Very specifically, the bullet points that you see here are generally where we're headed, but all things change as time moves forward. So where we can reappropriate or fix issues, where we gain additional staff and can fast track topics, and where we have other elements that might be raised for a specific customer need or general market need, roadmaps will actually change. That really does bring us towards the end of our session. So I hope you've bared with me while I've pushed through a number of slides. I'm going to check here on the online portal, see if there's on the GoToMeeting, see if there's any questions that have currently been asked. And if you feel like asking any question, please go to webinar and type a question in. I'll see it, and Tero and I should be able to address or answer it.
Thank you, John. That was really informative. I would like to also note that if you have feedback or improvement ideas regards to our sessions, please feel free to share so we can improve in the future.
I'm not seeing any questions at this time, but one that we've thought of in advance. Would you read our pre-prepped question, Tero?
Yeah, sure. One important probably that all the customers would be asking is that why would I upgrade? What would be the benefit of using this release? So John, can you help our customers to understand what would be the additional value to install this upgrade?
Sure, and it makes sense. I mean, why do work if I didn't have to do work? And the answer is, with every release cycle, we update our core components. So for example, SSO uses Tomcat and customer ID uses Wildfly. Those are external packages to Ubisecure. They're open source and they're patched and upgraded on a regular basis. It's not always possible for you as a customer to use an upgraded Tomcat, an upgraded version of Tomcat with an older version of our software. We don't test them. You may have tested or experimented in that fashion. It might work for you. It might throw bugs or other errors. So one of the reasons to upgrade on a regular cycle, potentially not every 6 months, but a regular cycle, is that the core components will be updated with each of our releases. So the very next issues, the very next tickets that the team internally will be working on is the updating of core components for both SSO and CID. Obviously, where a release has new features, the other reason to upgrade is if there's a feature or a series of bug fixes that have been pinned down inside a release. If you're looking for an authentication adapter for a Swedish bank ID, this next version, so 2018.1 as the next release version, would be the package that you're looking for. The authentication adapter is not backward compatible, so you can't just take the authentication adapter portion and plug it into 8.2 or 8.1 SSO and expect it to work. That would be the reason to upgrade.
All right, thank you, John. Yeah, we have a pre-prep question as well, another one. So a couple of the latest releases we have slightly slipped from the roadmap. So how are you going to ensure that the next release is not going to be delayed or doesn't have major bugs or defects? How would we cover that?
Right, and also that's the reason that I displayed the total number of tickets at the very start of the webinar. So what the tickets are in the current release is the total ticket load and the organizational, the chart showing average time of throughput on a ticket. I can't promise that the next release won't be delayed by 1 or 2 weeks, just like I couldn't promise this release isn't going to be delayed by 1 or 2 weeks. But the mere fact that we're watching, so from an organizational basis, this comes from the board of directors on through nearly everybody in the company, now understands that the release cycle is required to be regular, is required to be met, and other elements are going to be set down to ensure that the release cycle is held. The thing that will delay the release, like I was hoping to release, I as product owner was hoping to release 2018.1 here on the webinar. During our final stage testing over the last 3 weeks, we did identify several bugs. I opened up 4 or 5 for SSO and probably as many for customer ID. And that's going to be the major element that would cause a delay in our release. So the major bugs and defects are we're starting to watch for them and ensure that we're not making releases or that we're delaying releases minorly. And then with inside the reference environment, we're actually watching as a holistic view. Does the UI actually look appropriate as an end user who is not on the core development team? Can I actually go through the UI and ensure that all features and functions are sensical and are actually fully tested in an end-to-end basis? That is a full QA experience. We're going to improve across 2019, and I hope by the time we're talking about the release in early April of 2020, all of you as attendees will understand that we're meeting the goal, and you can have faith and confidence in our release cycle. At this time, I'm not seeing any other questions being asked on the webinar. If there's nothing else that we need to specifically talk about, is there anything else on your side, Tero, that you'd like to bring up?
No, I think we have covered most of the things. So we don't have any more questions. Which I think
and there aren't any?
I would like to thank John, our presenter, very informative session. Also, many thanks for the participants for joining today. The recording will be available shortly online as we have processed it, so you can watch it again or distribute it further. Please remind to follow us on social media, so LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook. And again, thank you all for joining, and see you next time.
Thanks, folks. I'll end the session now. Have a good afternoon.